She didn't scream until the third knock. It wasn't the knock itself, but what came with it, the echo that didn't match. The forest was supposed to be dead silent at this hour, just the thick breath of trees and the occasional groan of old wood under moonlight. But that third knock had breath behind it. A whisper. A voice. Laura dropped the flashlight. It flickered as it hit the muddy porch, illuminating the front door of the house she'd only seen in her dreams. Rotting wood, Westren, and it could half-hinged. A nail jutted out like a finger pointing in blame. She stepped back, heart hammering, but the door creaked open on its own, slow, deliberate, and with the sound of something being scraped off the inside. She turned to run. But something inside whispered her name, not once but twice. Laura. Laura. Her blood turned to ice. She had never told anyone where she was going. And that voice wasn't one she recognized. It wasn't even human. The air around her thickened like syrup, dragging her breath into her throat. Laura tried to back away, but her legs felt like they were stuck in cold mud, unwilling to obey. The voice that whispered her name didn't come again, but the weight of its memory was still pressing against her spine. She grabbed the flashlight, now sputtering in her hand, and aimed it toward the threshold. Inside, the room appeared empty, but only at first glance. The wallpaper peeled in curling strips like dried flesh. A chair sat upright in the center of the room, facing the doorway, as though waiting for her. And on the chair, a bundle of rotting cloth, shaped like something that had once been held, once been loved. Laura's lips parted. "Is someone here?" she said. Silence. Then, from somewhere deeper inside, came the distinct clatter of something crawling over wood. Laura stepped inside. 1 foot, then another. The floor groaned but held. Her eyes scanned the room, drawn again and again to that chair. The bundle didn't move, but it didn't have to. Something about it demanded reverence, or fear. She couldn't tell which. Dust motes spiraled like falling ash in her flashlight's beam. A sound, faint but unmistakable, came from upstairs, a dragging, intermittent thump. Like someone pulling something heavy. She looked up, heart banging against her ribs. "Hello?" she whispered. Then she saw it. A rope. It dangled from the attic entrance, slightly swaying, even though there was no wind. Laura's body stiffened. The bundle on the chair slumped forward suddenly, with no visible cause, and hit the floor with a dull thud. She gasped, stumbling backward. Something was up there, watching. The air from the attic reeked. Mildew, copper, and something far worse. Laura reached up and gripped the rope. It was damp and warm. That wasn't right. Her hand recoiled, but the trapdoor above creaked open just slightly, letting down a sliver of complete darkness. The kind of darkness that feels full, like it's hiding something too big to name. A whisper came again, but it wasn't a name this time. It was laughter, wet and broken. Laura's knees buckled as she staggered backward. The walls began to breathe, or at least that's how it felt. Wallpaper expanded and shrank in rhythm, like lungs. Her flashlight flickered wildly, and finally died. In the pitch dark, Laura's ears filled with a sound she'd never forget, nails scraping across wood, directly above her head. The flashlight sputtered back to life for a single breath, and in that breath, she saw the outline of something on the ceiling. Thin, elongated, clinging to the boards like a spider, limbs too long, head tilted unnaturally. Then darkness again. Laura screamed. But it came out as a croak, swallowed by the house. She turned and ran. The front door, still ajar, slammed shut with thunderous finality. She crashed into it, pulled, kicked. Nothing. Behind her the sound of wood cracking, something descending. She didn't dare look. Her hands bled against the doorframe. She closed her eyes, braced for impact. But then, silence. Everything stopped. Even the house stopped breathing. A voice, soft and chilling, whispered inches from her ear. "We've been waiting, Laura." Before the house, before the whispers, there had been silence, and Laura had lived inside it. Her therapist once said, "You're not numb, Laura, you're surviving." But Laura knew better. She hadn't felt anything since her sister vanished 6 years ago in these same woods. It was the one secret she kept from everyone, that she had heard her sister scream before the disappearance, that she hadn't told the police, that she hadn't followed the sound. Now, as she pressed her back against the sealed front door, hands bleeding and breath shallow, the truth came back in a rush. Not just fear, but guilt. "I left her," she whispered to herself. The house groaned in response, as if acknowledging her confession. And from the far end of the hallway, the sound of humming floated down. A child's voice, hauntingly familiar. A tune only two sisters would know. The humming grew louder, circling her like a predator. Laura stood slowly, her legs trembling. Every creak of the floor underfoot felt like a betrayal. She followed the sound deeper into the house. Each step scraped against something inside her, dredging memories she'd buried. She reached a hallway lined with faded photographs, sepia-toned portraits of children with empty eyes. She didn't recognize them, yet something about their crooked smiles made her stomach turn. At the end of the hall, a door she hadn't seen before stood ajar. The humming stopped. Laura's breath caught. A child's whisper pierced the silence. "Why didn't you come when I called?" Her heart dropped. The voice wasn't just familiar. It was exact. Her sister's voice, at the same age she vanished. And it was coming from behind that door. Her hand hovered over the doorframe, trembling. Behind it lay either madness or truth, and maybe they were the same. She pushed the door open. It revealed a small bedroom, untouched by time. A child's room. Toys still on the shelves. A stuffed rabbit perched on a pillow. The wallpaper was pale blue with faded stars. And there, sitting cross-legged on the bed, was a little girl. Brown curls, pale skin, eyes too large for her face. She looked directly at Laura and smiled. "I waited," the girl said. Laura staggered backward. It wasn't possible. Her sister had disappeared 6 years ago. She should be a teenager now. But this girl hadn't aged a day. "Emily?" Laura whispered. The girl's smile widened. "You let them take me," she said. Then her eyes rolled back, and her jaw cracked open wider than humanly possible. Laura's scream was cut short by the sound of shattering glass. The girl was gone, just vanished, leaving the bed perfectly made. But the mirror across the room had fractured. Not broken outward, but inward, like it had sucked something in. Laura stared at it. Her own reflection was wrong. Her eyes were older. Her hair soaked. Her mouth opened without her moving it. "You left her," it mouthed. "And now it's your turn." The room darkened unnaturally, the ceiling stretching upward like a tunnel. Laura turned and fled, racing back into the hallway, but it had changed. No photos. No doors. Just endless corridor and whispers rising from beneath the floorboards. She wasn't just lost. She was being drawn. The house was remembering her now. She ran until her lungs burned, only to find herself back at the living room. The chair, the bundle, the emptiness. The bundle was gone. In its place lay a single old cassette tape. Laura bent to pick it up, fingers shaking. The label was faded, but she recognized the handwriting. Emily's. Just 2 words written in childish scrawl, "Play me." She hesitated, then found an old tape recorder on the nearby shelf, covered in cobwebs. She inserted the tape and hit play. Static. Then, a voice. Emily's voice. "Laura, if you hear this, they've already taken me. But I think you can find the room. The real one." A sharp crack. Silence. Then whispers layered over whispers until her ears rang. She dropped the recorder. But the tape kept playing. The house was speaking now. The tape recorder continued to play even after Laura ripped out the cassette. Whispers layered over more whispers. Different ages, different tones, all saying the same thing. Find the room. She staggered backward, her breath ragged. Why her? Why now? She scanned the walls, the floorboards, searching for a sign. And then she saw it, barely visible beneath a rug, a ring of wood slightly misaligned with the planks. A trapdoor. Dust exploded into the air as she yanked it open. A narrow staircase led into total darkness, but from below rose a sound not entirely unfamiliar, breathing. But it wasn't hers. Not human, not animal. Something in between. Da. Laura swallowed hard. If this was where Emily had gone, it was also where Laura would finally confront what she'd run from. She began descending, flashlight trembling in her grip, into the belly of the house. The stairs groaned with each step. The air turned colder, wetter. The walls were stone now, covered in lichen and claw marks. It didn't feel like a basement. It felt older, like something carved out centuries ago. Her flashlight flickered again. Please not now, she whispered. At the bottom, the room opened up, bare stone walls, rusty metal hooks hanging from chains, and in the center, a crude wooden table stained dark. But what chilled her wasn't the bloodstains. It was the drawings. Hundreds of them. Childlike, frantic, drawn in red. A house. A girl. A shadow. Again and again. One figure was always the same, the tall thing with broken limbs. And next to it a child with no eyes. Laura dropped the light. One drawing was new, still wet. It showed her, standing right where she was. Laura backed away from the drawing, heart racing. That's when she noticed the door, hidden behind a torn black curtain. Unlike the rest of the house, it was clean, pristine. White wood, a golden knob. She reached for it, her hand trembling. It swung open on its own. Inside was a room out of a memory. Her childhood bedroom. Same wallpaper. Same nightlight. Same stuffed rabbit. But everything was wrong. The bed was too small now. The rabbit's eyes were missing. And on the bed sat a man. Early 40s, dark hair, worn jacket. Dad? Laura whispered. He didn't turn. Just stared at the wall, rocking slightly. You left us, he said. You watched her go. Laura froze. Her father had died in the search for Emily. But here he was, alive, or something wearing his shape. Laura stepped inside, barely breathing. Her father's body twitched, like a glitch in a broken screen. You stayed upstairs, he muttered, voice slurred. You heard her scream. His head twisted too far, neck cracking. His eyes were black. Not empty, filled. With something writhing. You can still fix it, he said, standing now. Find the mother. Laura shook her head. What do you mean? But he didn't answer. His body began to fall apart in slow motion, flesh unraveling into smoke, which spiraled up into the ceiling like a reverse scream. In his place on the bed was a new object, a child's drawing, folded in half. Laura opened it. Two stick figures held hands, one labeled Emily, the other labeled her. No face. Just eyes scribbled black. A note beneath, she lives beneath the roots. Laura followed the walls until she found the next door, this one made of thick, gnarled wood, like living bark. The smell of soil and decay poured from it. She lives beneath the roots. She repeated the words like a mantra. The door resisted at first, then gave way. A narrow tunnel lay beyond, dug into the earth, lined with roots that pulsed like veins. The walls throbbed with slow, unnatural movement. As she crawled through, voices grew louder, now a chorus. Emily's, her father's, even her own. Mocking. Pleading. Begging. She reached a chamber at the tunnel's end, circular and wet. In the center, growing out of the ground, was a tree, not made of wood, but hair, limbs, and bone. At its base sat a figure in shadow. Laura's breath caught. Whatever this was, it had been waiting for her a long time. The figure at the base of the grotesque tree lifted its head slowly, revealing the face of a woman, pale, hair matted like wet roots, and eyes filled with centuries of grief. "You brought her back," she said, voice echoing in layers. "You broke the seal." Laura stepped forward, dizzy from the smell of rot and memory. "Who are you?" The woman smiled faintly. "I am the one who watched, who waited, who fed on what was forgotten." She reached out a hand. The roots pulsed in rhythm with her breath. "Your sister was the first, but not the last." Laura's voice cracked. "What do you mean, the first?" The woman's eyes rolled back, and from behind her, the tree groaned. Faces began to emerge from its trunk, small, terrified, mouths open in silent screams. Children. Dozens of them. They all came when someone forgot. Laura stumbled backward as the faces in the tree began to move. Slowly, as if waking from an eternal sleep. She couldn't breathe. The woman stood now, impossibly tall, her limbs crackling with bark and bone. Each soul forgotten, each cry unheard. "They became mine," she hissed. "And so did your sister." Laura screamed. "She's not yours." The woman cocked her head. "But she called to me. You didn't answer." The chamber shuddered. A rift opened in the floor beneath the tree, and from its blackness 2 hands emerged. Small, childlike, trembling. Emily's. Laura fell to her knees. "Emily, it's me. I'm here now." The hands hesitated, then gripped the edge of the stone. The woman turned, snarling. "She can't leave. Not without a replacement." And for the first time Laura understood, someone had to take her sister's place. The choice pressed against Laura like a vice. The air around her thickened with every heartbeat. "Take me," she whispered. "Let her go." The woman smiled, teeth jagged like splintered bone. "Willing sacrifice. Beautiful." Laura turned to the pit. "Emily, run. Don't look back." The child emerged fully now, mud-caked, eyes wide with recognition. "Laura?" she asked. Tears welled in Laura's eyes. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She felt the roots tightening around her ankles. They dragged her toward the tree as Emily ran toward the tunnel behind. "No!" Emily screamed. But Laura nodded. "Go." The woman leaned close, her breath like mold. "You remember now. That's all I needed." Then, suddenly, the roots stopped. The ground split open again. A new scream echoed from within the tree. Something else was trying to emerge. From within the tree, a new form was pushing through. Larger than the children, more jagged, its face a horror of blended features. Not just one soul. All of them. The woman gasped, stepping back. "No, that's not part of the deal." The roots convulsed. The chamber roared like a living thing. The monstrous being burst from the tree, a fusion of every child ever taken, eyes overlapping, limbs twisted, a voice that screamed in 1,000 pitches. "You held us here," it cried. "Now we hold you." It lunged at the woman. Laura fell free from the roots as they recoiled. Emily screamed her name. "I'm okay," Laura said, dragging herself toward her. Behind her, the bone tree shattered as the monster wrapped itself around the woman and pulled her into the earth. The roots went silent. The air cleared. The silence after was almost holy. No whispers. No movement. Just the crackle of roots curling inward. Laura lay beside Emily, chest rising and falling, unsure if they were still alive or just free. "Is it over?" Emily asked, her voice thin. Laura nodded, though she wasn't sure. "We're going home." They crawled back through the tunnel together, hand in hand. The house above was decaying faster now, walls cracking, ceilings collapsing. They emerged through the trapdoor into dawn. The light outside was soft, almost unreal. For the first time in years, Laura heard birdsong. She held Emily close, tears soaking her shoulder. But, as she turned to leave, her eyes caught something. In the shattered mirror by the front door, her reflection was gone. Not altered. Not corrupted. Simply absent. The house had taken something after all. They didn't speak as they walked through the forest. The sun filtered through the trees like it hadn't in years, but Laura could still feel something clinging to her, inside her. Emily clutched her hand tightly, never letting go. The birdsong grew louder the farther they got from the house. And then, it stopped. All at once. Emily froze. "It followed us," she whispered. Laura turned slowly. There, between the trees, stood the outline of a figure. Tall, still, head slightly tilted. The forest seemed to dim around it. "No," Laura said. "We ended it." But the thing didn't move. Emily began to cry. "It's not the same one," she said. "It's the mother." Laura felt it too. This wasn't just a remnant. This was something older, deeper. The house was only a branch. This was the root. And it was awake now. The figure took a step forward, and every bird fled the trees. Its feet didn't touch the ground. It hovered inches above the leaves. "You woke her," Emily said, trembling. "She was supposed to sleep forever." Laura pulled her close, scanning for somewhere to run. But the woods had shifted. The path was gone. Trees leaned inward. No wind. No sound. Just the presence closing in. The thing opened its mouth, but no sound came. Instead, the trees groaned. A pressure wave pulsed outward, and Laura dropped to her knees. Blood trickled from her nose. "It's inside us," she gasped. Emily was pale, convulsing slightly. "She wants to be remembered," she managed. "She wants us." Laura looked around, realizing the only way to survive wasn't to run. It was to confront it. Forest would not let them go until they did. Laura rose, lifting Emily in her arms. Her vision blurred, but her voice rang clear. "You've taken enough." The figure tilted its head. "We buried them," she continued. "Forgot them, feared them, but not anymore." She stepped forward. With every move, the ground twisted, trying to drag her down. "You were born in silence," she said. "But I remember." The forest shimmered, reacting. The figure's form cracked like old porcelain. Its chest opened, not physically, but emotionally. Within was a swirling black void. Grief, rage, loss. Laura stepped into its shadow, pressing Emily against her shoulder. "You don't own our pain," she whispered. "You only reflect it." A scream erupted from the figure. Not sound, but feeling, rushing like a wave. Trees bent backward. Roots split from the ground. And then, light. The light poured from the sky in beams, piercing the canopy. The figure staggered, limbs splintering. Its form collapsed inward like a dying star. The scream faded. The trees straightened. Emily gasped for air, clutching Laura's coat. "She's gone," she whispered. Laura wasn't sure. Not fully. But something had changed. The forest exhaled. A breeze lifted the hair from her face. In the clearing behind them, the path had returned. The house was no longer standing, just a crater, steaming and still. Laura knelt, holding Emily not in fear, but in defiance. The figure had fed on absence, on what people failed to face. And now, they had faced it. But as Laura stood, she saw one final thing, burned into the bark of the nearest tree, a drawing. 2 stick figures. One adult. One child. Hand in hand. No faces. Just eyes, wide and watching. They walked out of the woods together, bathed in morning light. No longer hunted. No longer haunted. But changed. Laura didn't speak. Neither did Emily. They didn't have to. The silence now wasn't the same one that had once swallowed them. It was peace. As they reached the roadside, a truck came into view. A ranger stepped out, startled. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Laura smiled, tears welling up. We're alive, she said. He looked at Emily, then at the forest. You came from there? Laura nodded. It's over now. The ranger hesitated, then offered them water. As they climbed into the truck, Laura glanced back. The forest shimmered faintly in the sunlight. She couldn't be sure, but for a split second she thought she saw someone watching just behind the trees. A flicker. Then, gone. Some things don't vanish. They wait. The ranger brought them to a nearby clinic, small, rural, quiet. No questions they couldn't answer. Just checkups, warm blankets, and silence. Laura sat in the hallway, while Emily slept in the next room. The nurse said she was fine. No bruises, no damage, just exhaustion. But Laura couldn't stop shaking. Not from fear, grief. Not for what was lost, but what had always been broken. A police officer arrived, asking gentle questions. How long were you gone? Where did you find her? Did you see anyone else? Laura answered simply, no, just her. The officer accepted it. People don't want the truth when the lie is easier. And maybe that was for the best. Because the truth wasn't a crime, it was a curse. And Laura had seen its face. Emily woke up asking for pancakes. That was it. No questions about the house. No talk of the monster, or the whispers, or what she'd seen in the dark. Laura made her laugh, and for a moment the nightmare felt like something they could fold away. But as Laura tied Emily's shoes later that morning, she noticed something. A bruise shaped like a handprint, small and faint, on the girl's ankle. Laura didn't say anything, just stared at it for a long time. Emily looked up. Do we have to go back there? She asked. Laura shook her head. No, never. But the truth crawled in the back of her mind like roots through soil. They had escaped the house. But part of it had come with them. Not a place. A connection. And that kind of thing doesn't stay buried. They stayed at a relative's place, Laura's aunt, who didn't ask too much. Just set up a guest room, cooked soup, and let them rest. Nights were quieter now, but not empty. Laura would wake to find Emily sitting at the window, staring into the yard. What do you see? Laura asked once. Emily didn't answer. Just pointed. There was nothing there. Just trees. Normal trees. But Laura felt it too. A sense of being watched, gently, like the world held its breath when they stepped outside. Emily began drawing again. Pictures of trees with eyes. A girl underground. A door. Just dreams, she'd say. But Laura knew better. Some roots don't grow back. Others spread. And Emily in her silence was listening for them. 1 week later, the police called again. A team had gone to investigate the location of the house. There's nothing there, the officer said. No structure, no foundation, no disturbance. Laura said nothing. He continued, just trees, new ones, like it never existed. Laura hung up the phone without another word. She stared at the wall for hours after that. Had she imagined it? Was the house only real because she believed it was? Or worse, was it still there but choosing not to be seen? Emily came and rested her head in Laura's lap. We're safe now, she said. Laura kissed the top of her head. We are, she whispered. But her eyes stayed on the window. Because she knew the truth. They were only safe. Until it called someone else. Laura began writing again. Not for herself, but for the ones who might hear the whispers someday. She documented everything, what she saw, what she felt, what no one else would believe. The truth wasn't for the police. It was for them, the children who vanished, the ones the world forgot. She wrote their names, drew their faces from memory. She left the pages in the woods, waited under stones. Every morning they were gone. Taken, one wall. Accepted. Remembered. The guilt didn't leave her. But it changed shape. It became something like purpose. Emily slept peacefully now. But sometimes in the still of night, Laura would walk to the edge of the forest. She wouldn't go in. Just stand there and whisper one word, I remember. And from far off, something whispered back. Weeks passed. The world didn't change. Children still played, trees still swayed, and strangers still walked past places that shouldn't exist. But Laura knew, beneath the quiet, something ancient still breathed. She returned often, never beyond the tree line, always alone. Emily stopped asking why. Some part of her understood. On this visit, Laura brought a music box, the same lullaby she and Emily had hummed as children. She placed it beneath the same stone where she'd left the drawings. The air was cold, though the sun was up. This is for the ones who never made it back, she whispered. As she turned to leave, the music box wound itself open, its gears creaking, the lullaby playing slowly, then warping slightly. She didn't stop. She just kept walking, never looking back. She didn't need to. She already knew they were listening. Back at the house, Laura sorted through old belongings. Emily was at school now, functioning, healing, growing. Life was slowly returning to routine. But Laura's nights remained restless. She opened a dusty shoebox of childhood keepsakes. Tucked between drawings and broken toys was a photograph she didn't remember taking. Her and Emily, in front of the old house. But the house behind them was whole, restored, vivid, like it had never decayed. And someone else stood behind them, just at the edge of the porch. A woman, tall, indistinct, her face obscured by glare, but her hand rested gently on Emily's shoulder. Laura's pulse spiked. She flipped the photo over. In Emily's handwriting, we found her. It wasn't a message for her. It was a message from her. And Laura hadn't seen her write it. That night, Laura dreamt of the house again. Only this time she wasn't trapped. She walked its halls like she belonged there. No shadows lunged. No whispers crawled. Instead, doors opened softly, and behind them stood the children, dozens of them, eyes clear, voices singing. The house wasn't abandoned. It was waiting, preserving, and a vessel of memory. Laura entered a room with a crib and a window. On the sill sat a note. You remembered. It read. She turned to find Emily, older now, taller. It's your house now, she said before fading into light. Laura woke with tears on her cheeks and dirt under her fingernails. She hadn't left her bed, but the music box was on the floor beside her. Still playing. Still open. Morning came slowly. Laura walked outside to clear her head. The trees behind the house were still. Birds chirped again. But something had shifted in her. Not fear, acceptance. She looked down and noticed something in the grass near her feet. Another photograph. Weathered. From the same roll as before. This one showed her alone in front of the tree. No Emily. Just her, hand raised, waving. And behind her, etched into the bark, was that same childlike drawing. Two figures. One missing their face. Laura held the photo tight, then dropped it into the wind. She turned away from the trees. As she did, her shadow did not. It lingered 1 second longer than it should have, facing the forest, watching. Waiting. Night. Night. Quiet. Emily's toy ball rolled gently across the hallway floor. No wind. No movement. Just motion. It stopped at Laura's door. A pause. Then, tap. A soft knock. Nothing followed. No voice. No shadow. Just silence. Laura sat upright in bed, heart stilled. The music box began to play again. A single note, drawn out like a whisper. She rose slowly, stepping toward the door. Her fingers hovered over the knob. Another tap. She turned the knob. Slowly. The hallway was empty. Only the ball rested there, stalked by something unseen. She stepped back inside and closed the door, breath trembling. As the lights flickered, the camera closed in on the ball. A small child's voice whispered, almost inaudible, "You promised you'd never forget." Then, cut to black.